The top 1% follow 10 money rules that keep them rich while everyone else stays broke. I run a multi-million-dollar business using these exact rules. If you want to change how you think about money and level up financially, you need to know these 10 rules. My first rule of money is that you have to ruin yourself every single day. You need to be doing this one thing if you want to manage your money like the top 1%. Log in to your bank account. Instead of you diving into social media, looking at your emails, kissing on your significant other, open your bank account every single morning. Back when I didn't have very much money and I didn't have a lot of financial literacy, I would not make money my priority. And the way that you know that money is not your priority is if you never look at your money. Your money needs attention. If you have attention on your money, there is no possible way for it not to improve, for you not to do something different when you are looking at your money consistently. So when you wake up in the morning, remind yourself that you have a financial goal. If you want to make more money, you wouldn't be watching this video if you didn't. You have to pay attention to how much money you have. If you don't know this, you aren't really taking your financial goals seriously. When I wake up in the morning at 5:30, the first thing that I do is log into my bank account. I open up the app, boop, 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 type in my password. Maybe when I'm sophisticated, my face works when it's like smashed against the pillow, and my bank account opens. And I remember, I gotta go make more money. I'm looking at what increased yesterday, what decreased, and how can I make making money a intention. You're never gonna look at your bank account. I can promise you, you're never gonna make more money. What you measure improves. So start measuring your money daily. My second rule of money is that you have to be fearless with your money decisions. Taking immediate action with your money is the mindset change that will make you rich. Instead of just checking your bank account or being frustrated and overwhelmed potentially that you don't have the money that you want to have, how are you taking action on this data? What are you doing in the next 24-hour period to increase your income? If you do not have something that you are doing today, and you are taking action right now to increase your income, you're never going to increase your income. You're going to get so overwhelmed every single time you look at your bank account that you're not going to do anything. And you're going to wake up in 10 years from now and be like, I'm making the same money. Maybe there's a little bit of an adjustment for inflation, but you never figured out the game of adding valuable skills because you took action today. Taking more action could sound like, I'm going to go have a conversation with my boss in order to understand what I would need to do in order to earn more money at my job. The action that you take is directly tied to what is the next thing that has to happen in order for me to know how I make more money. And just by initiating the conversation, just by watching a video, just by reading a book, you are moving towards taking control of your financial situation. But you just sitting there, looking at it, seeing it, not understanding how you impact it, it's going to keep you stuck. The top 1% rearrange their entire days to be entirely focused on making more money. That is what they do every day. Every meeting that they take, every call that they take, every action that they take is geared towards optimizing their ability to make more money. How quickly they take a shower, what they think about when they're in the shower, how is everything organized in their lives so that they can be as efficient as possible to impact the things that matter most to them, which is how do I drive more value across the things that I'm responsible for to have that value be exchanged with me in money. My third rule of money is to use the tools that the system has offered you because that's what the rich are doing. Debt is a beautiful thing as long as it's not credit card debt. The rich use debt in order to make money. If you have this thought process that the word debt is a bad thing, it's because you are using debt incorrectly. What you do is you take the money that you have, that is your earned income, and you add debt to your earned income to be able to buy something that you couldn't afford with just your earned income. For instance, with real estate, if you wanted to buy $1 million home, you would use $200,000 of your earned income and take on $800,000 of debt to get you access to $1 million deal. So your goal should be to make your earned income as high as possible, go from $200,000 to $400,000, which would allow you to get more debt to be able to take on bigger deals. This whole process is how wealthy people think about their earned income. They want to take as much money that they actually earn so that they have more access to bigger deals, to greater opportunities, because they're able to get more debt due to having higher earned income, and then they can go to the market and get a great investment that pays them. This whole cycle is what the 1% understands that everybody else doesn't. So if you don't currently understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, go ChatGPT it right now. And that would be you taking action today to increase your income. My fourth money rule is to shop like the rich. Everything in life is a sale and a negotiation. The wealthiest people that I know negotiate everything. Everything is up for negotiation. They understand that price is entirely made up, and so they negotiate everything. And the way that they negotiate is they do research and they do due diligence, and they understand if I'm about to buy this car, I'm going to look at the 20 other cars that are like this so that I can actually negotiate the lowest price for the purchase of this car. When I'm going to buy anything, I'm going to think of myself as a negotiator. Now, people who are broke tend to think that prices are fixed and that they don't move, but they do. So if you want to start earning like the rich, a mindset shift for you to make today is to start shopping like the rich, because wealthy people use other reference points in order to make their point for why something has an established value in their mind, and they sell everybody else on what their established value is. The store has created value for something, but as a customer, if I find that the value is something different, there might be room for us to move that price. So just remember, money is made up. It isn't fixed. It's something that you can play with, and wealthy people constantly play with it. My fifth money rule is to stick to one thing until you are so rich that it doesn't matter. If you do not have a $10 million net worth, you shouldn't be changing up your earning strategy. I cannot stand this conversation about multi-passionate people. It's cool that you're multi-passionate, but that does not mean you create a career around being multi-passionate. You don't do 5 things in your career. Get freaking good, like great at one thing. And you know that you're great when you've created a business or created an opportunity where you're able to have a $10 million net worth. Until you've hit that target, do not start diversifying. Do not start thinking you have to learn new skills. Groove in the one thing and make that your goal. Let's say you're a dentist. Until your dental practices are generating $10 million a year in adjusted production, and you likely have 3 locations, you should not be starting to learn how to be a real estate investor. Become a great dentist first. One of the greatest lies people are told, and that we somehow normalized, is that diversity is a great thing. It is a crock of shit. Become known for one thing. Once you're known for that, and you have money that you are able to blow doing other things, and you're at a different phase of life, all of a sudden you can become multi-passionate and start doing a whole bunch of different things with your time. Until you're at $10 million, keep the main thing the main thing. Especially when you're young, you need to go all in on one thing, because that's what you can control and become an expert in. That brings us to my 6th rule of money, which is to learn from rich people's relationships. This may be surprising, but the wealthiest people actually view relationships differently than that of non-wealthy people. Some of the most important relationships that you will cultivate are relationships with lawyers, with bankers, with accountants, with people who understand money and who will guide you through this process of becoming wealthy. So you need to start taking your banking relationships seriously. Wealthy people focus on finding only the best of the best people. If a wealthy person walks into Chase Bank, they want the most senior person on their account. Do you even know who's on your account at Chase Bank? I know the first time I ever opened up a bank account, it was during college, and I opened a college account, which saved me like $25 a year because it was a college account. And all of a sudden, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in this account. I didn't know who my banker was. None of it was protected. I only had $250,000 protected if something did go wrong with the bank. I just had no idea what was going on until I was introduced to a real account manager, somebody who could actually help me with my financial targets, and I moved away from Chase to go on over to JP Morgan because they were serious about my money goals. But I set that tone. I could have created a different outcome with that Chase relationship earlier on. I just didn't know how to do that when I was in college. I didn't know what questions I should be asking, such as what options do you have for me to put my money in? Do you have any additional ways for me to make a couple more basis points on the money that I have sitting in this bank? They might look at you and just blink because they're not prepared for most people to ask these questions. And you should tell them, hey, one day I'm going to be a really important person around here. I want to make sure that I'm banking with the right person and that you're going to take me seriously because I take my financial goals seriously. And if you currently have a banking relationship, you should go in person, you should meet that person, and you should have this exact conversation with them. Make them take you seriously. Make them walk you through what you don't know about banking with them. You should be visiting them at least once a quarter, sending them thank thank you cards and holiday cards, and investing in the relationship. Next up is rule number 7, which is to focus on you. Until you have $100,000 in your bank account, you should be spending any extra money you have on reinvesting into your own education. There is nothing more important than investing in yourself. In order to get to where you want to go, you have to gain skills that are required to get there. You are not going to wake up magically one day and have the money that you want without you learning more about money. There's no fairy godmother who's just going to sprinkle wealth over you. It is very unlikely that you're going to win the lottery. So take control of the things that you can. What you can control is your education and investing in yourself, not on a spa day, not really on a sweet treat. I'm talking about investing in yourself through education is the only way that you can make sure that you take control of your financial future. Investing in yourself means that you are investing your money in books, courses, and trainings. I think of spending money differently than investing money. In an investment, I am expecting a return. If I read a book, I'm expecting that there's a return, not just on the $12 I might have paid, but the time that I invested in listening, learning, and applying that information. You're watching this YouTube video right now. You should be expecting that the investment of your time in this video up until this point is giving you something that you can turn around and go do something with. If I haven't taught you anything and you can't implement what I'm talking about, this would be a bad investment of your time. So you have to differentiate. What am I investing in versus what am I spending money on? The 8th money rule is one of my favorites. This is the one question you need to ask yourself before buying anything. If you are spending your money on something that you know you don't need but you just want, this is how you make those spending decisions. If you cannot buy it twice in cash and take your passive income to be able to afford it, you cannot afford it. And that's okay. These are just rules to live by. Once you know what you can or can't afford, all of a sudden you're like, shoot, I gotta get back to work, make more money because I wanna go buy this thing. It should feel that simple, and it really should be that easy for you to start creating on your financial future. Let's say I go to the Chanel store. They have lots of beautiful things that are very expensive, and I remember being shocked the first time that I looked at a price tag of a Chanel bag in the store. In order to buy a Chanel bag, you are at least spending $5,000. And I was a little down on myself thinking, how on earth am I gonna be able to spend $5,000? Well, if I only had $8,000, do I now have enough money to spend on a Chanel bag? Well, if I had to work through my income in order to get the $8,000 so that I could spend $5,000 on the bag, I do not have enough money to be able to afford this bag. But if I had $10,000, I would be filling out one criteria, but if I'm using earned income to buy it, then I still don't actually have the ability to afford it because I have to go work my tail off in order to have that money. And then once I am able to buy 2 of them, I still don't have enough money to truly afford this bag. You need rules. So this next rule is challenging, but it is important and will give you financial security for the rest of your life. Passive income. How much earned income would you need to have invested in order for it to spit off passively $10,000? You would have to have $200,000 of income inside your bank account, which means you likely generate $400,000 of income a year, depending on your tax bracket. $400K, you get $200K in your bank account. You invest $200K in some investment vehicle. It spits off a 5% return, meaning you now have $10,000. $10,000 of passive income would allow you to buy a $5,000 bag. That is when you know that you can afford the bag. But until you can do that, you can't afford the bag, which means that you need to go learn, how do I make more money so I can afford the bag? It's a very simple equation. My 9th money rule is classic money advice. You should have an emergency fund. This is fairly standard, but some people don't really agree with this, and my business partner is one of those people. Grant Cardone is not a believer of emergency fund, and it's one of the fun things that we kind of have this little bit of a disagreement about. His philosophy that I do understand is if you have an emergency fund, you are not going to work as hard as if you didn't have the emergency fund. If there's always a threat in the environment, you're going to work your tail off because you have to. There's no other choice. When you start to build an emergency emergency fund, all of a sudden you start to get a little bit more comfortable. You stop investing yourself the way that you once did. So from a psychological standpoint, I like the idea of not having an emergency fund. But from a practical standpoint, being able to build up 6 months of cash reserves in your bank account or in your business is vital to know that you actually do have some level of financial security. You shouldn't always be completely broke without any cash on hand to be able to pay for things like medical emergencies or crisis. Having those funds and having access to those funds is important. And if there's ever an economic downturn, having cash, especially when nobody else has cash, allows you access to deals that nobody else is going to have access to. So I am a believer of having 6 months of an emergency fund, but pretending like you don't. And if you can keep this balance of still working your tail off, acting like you're broke, even when you do have 6 months, that is magic. You want to find a balance between saving for an emergency and investing in yourself and your future. Because if you use 6 months of your living expenses as your target, you now can start getting clear as to how much money you need to make in order to make that happen. Because if your living expenses are low, that means you have more money to be able to invest. If you make your living expenses high, all of a sudden you have less to invest because you have to keep up with how much money you're spending on your living expenses. Living expenses, low. Investment, high. The top 1% of rich people have gamified this mindset of money, and that's what you're missing. If you enjoyed learning about the money rules of the top 1%, check out my next video on money strategies to help you become financially free.